Well, it's true. Christmas time is here, and the South Carolina Gamecocks and Mr. Florence, Lenore Sellers, just stole Christmas from the Clemson Tigers. Let's talk about it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. I hope everyone had a very wonderful Thanksgiving holiday and break and weekend, a successful Black Friday if you do all of that. We had a good one, and you know what? When it's Thanksgiving week in the state of South Carolina, that means that it is Palmetto Bowl week. And this week in 2024, on this particular Saturday, the South Carolina Gamecocks went into Death Valley for the second time in a row and came out with the W. So it's a good week for Gamecock Nation without a doubt. And in honor of what Shane Beamer and company have done in Columbia and did at Death Valley this Saturday, we have a couple of Tiger Rolls. Now, there was supposed to be 3 of these. One was going to be from King Hefe, then the other 2 that we have. And of course, I'm going to let you know who I think has the best one. But unfortunately, I forgot it's Monday, and King Hefe is not open on Monday. And since the COVID situation, a lot of places aren't open on Monday. And all I'm going to say to keep this short and sweet is I understand why they do that. I'm a small business owner myself. I understand overhead and cost. I get the why, but Florence is changing. The Florence food scene is changing. There are a lot of people that have invested a lot of money and time and effort into that. And certainly this community playing a role in that, I believe we're going to see a situation created where now restaurant owners can't afford to not be open on Mondays. It would be too much of a loss to not be open. But for now, we have what we have. So no knock on King Hefe. They're not open. I understand why, but it was disappointing when I realized it, which I was already down there when I thought about it. With that being said, though, we have a tiger roll from Konnichiwa and a tiger roll from Redbowl. So we're going to feast on some tiger today. We got some different sauces. I always go for the sriracha. I don't have a dish to dip in soy sauce and wasabi, so there may not be any of that today. Sorry, we got plenty to choose from. So let's get into this. Konnichiwa's got a distinct advantage in flavor simply because this is deep fried. It's shrimp, smoked salmon, cream cheese, avocado, deep fried. The Red Bowl roll has salmon on the top, shrimp tempura inside, avocado on the top with some cucumber rolled in there. So let's get right into this and let's talk a little bit of football, okay? But yeah, it was a big win, and it really capped off what has been an excellent season for the Gamecocks. It's been a good year. So for those of you that don't know, this is a hyper-local YouTube channel that does a variety of things that could garner interest abroad. And so therefore, we have a diverse audience, but a lot of which is hyperlocal. And when I say hyperlocal, for us, that is the Florence, Myrtle Beach area in the state of South Carolina. And so I preface what I'm about to say with that because it sheds light on the importance of what I'm about to say, which is you can't talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks on this channel or as a local without mentioning the South Carolina quarterback, Lenore Sellers, which is whose jersey I have on, as you can see. And I don't typically wear other people's jerseys, honestly, at this point in my life. But in this case, it's warranted, justified, and necessary because Mr. Lenore Sellers is coming to us from the city of Florence. So he's a local hometown guy. We talked about it at length in this video, which you can refer back to. That's where we gave away a jersey from that video. But I talked at length about why I believe it's important to really support QB1 in South Carolina, being a local, being a native here at Florence. And I mentioned in that video, I said that I believe there's a really good chance that Lenore Sellers is going to have a better career at South Carolina than his predecessor, Spencer Rattler, had. And Rattler had a good career. He left a great legacy and mark. I believe that Rattler coming to South Carolina really changed or, added a momentum to the trajectory of the program in a lot of ways. But we won't get into all that. What I'm just saying is Sellers has some things in terms of size and athleticism that Spencer didn't have. And I mentioned in that video that because of that, I believe that Lenore's could really have a bigger impact in terms of the outcome of winning games, where the rubber meets the road, because he may be put in situations where he's going to need to be mobile and he can make plays that Spencer couldn't play. So as an example, the first drive in the game Saturday, the Houdini play, they were calling it on the internet. As good as Spencer Rattler is and as good of things as he did at South Carolina, he's not going to make that play. In that specific situation, Rattler's going to take a sack. Lenore Sellers turns it into it was like a 40-yard game. Now, when you look at the Gamecock season, at the beginning of the year, and I do have a witness to this, my prediction was that we would win 7 games. I said I could see us winning 7 games. I'm going to put my mark at 7. I could see a variety of outcomes. We don't really know until you get into it. It's college football. A lot changes from year to year just because of the overturn, but I'm going to go with 7 games, and they overachieved. We're 2 plays away, 1 play in the Alabama game, 1 play in the LSU game, from realistically being 11-1 right now. I mean, it's really mind-blowing what a great season the Gamecocks have had this year. And when you look at it, without a doubt, one of the major reasons is because of the athleticism, the field vision, specifically the ball carrier vision, which I would say I've come to the conclusion is elite level that Lenore Sellers possesses at the quarterback position. With his size, just makes him a very difficult force to contain for opposing defenses. And so when you look at those 9 wins, a lot of that is because of his play. But you got to attribute a lot also to the offensive line. Definitely not to throw them under the bus. They've played well this year. Our run game, I've been very impressed with Rocket Sanders, obviously. I like the fact that he's a very methodical runner. Just to kind of focus strictly on the Clemson game, you saw a lot of that in the game, of just being patient for the holes to open and then bursting through them as they did. A very methodical runner that I believe has a future at the next level. So he was an excellent addition to the team. Oscar Attaway also played well Saturday. Great team win. And then the defense. You know, I made a comment also at the beginning of the year that I said that I think that there could be a scenario where Clayton White could be on the hot seat. Not that he's done poorly. It's just big-time athletics require these large results. It's just the nature of the industry. And when guys aren't meeting that standard, they don't hang around long. It's been a fantastic season for his unit. And Saturday was no different. You got to give credit where it's due. Clemson's offensive line completely stifled our pass rush. The pass rush that's been such a big part of what we've been able to accomplish this year also were really neutralized on Saturday by that Clemson offensive line, but yet our defense played really well. Their run game was not able to get going, and they really, other than a couple drives and plays here and there, weren't able to do a lot through the air either. And that's a testament to Clayton White's unit play calling, and specifically the play of the linebackers and the secondary stepping up in the absence of that pass rush from our down linemen. Lenore Sellers made a great pass that was dropped there back in the corner of the end zone there at the end of the game. We know that Sellers can throw it. Like, we know that. From those of us that have seen him play in high school and even what he did last year in some opportunities that he got, we know that he can see the field and throw the ball, but he's a young quarterback at the highest level, leading a large program like we've talked about multiple times on this channel. And you got to anticipate that the game is going to come fast. It may take a little time for it to slow down a little bit for him. So what I'm going to say is that if that should happen and it gets to a point to where the game really slows down and you can tell that when he's in the pocket, everything's moving in slow motion and he starts delivering dimes, it's going to be a problem. I mean, I've seen lists where he's in the top 10 conversation for Heisman this year. If that happens, you're going to see our hometown guy very much in the conversation as a Heisman finalist, potential Heisman winner over the next 2 years. And the next 2 years look really exciting. We have a lot of seniors, senior leadership on defense that'll be gone. It remains to be seen how the defense will be impacted going into next year, anchored by Dylan Stewart. Can they replicate the success they've had this year or even build on it and go a step further? We'll see. I believe the success the team has had this year is going to make South Carolina an attractive destination, no doubt. And so Shane Beamer, I've heard a lot of Shane Beamer slander over the last particularly 2 years. I don't know how, especially coming off the back end of the last regime that we went through, how you can have something negative to say about Shane Beamer. I saw a meme or just a quote under a picture yesterday of Shane Beamer holding the Palmetto Bowl trophy, and it said this guy gives it his all. And he clearly does, man. I mean, this guy pours his entire life into the South Carolina program. He brought in the biggest marquee name at the most recognizable position in the sport in Spencer Rattler. That was a seismic shift in our program, I'm telling you. It has the potential to be that, and it seems like they have been thus far capitalizing on that moment and opportunity. And now we have something building and brewing that every college program is vehemently chasing and starving after, which is momentum. And on the recruiting trail, it's the name of the game. I thought there was a good chance that we would lose to Clemson on Saturday simply because, yeah, we're on the road, but we know we can go in there and win. A lot of times the road team has success in this rivalry, but Clemson has recruited at a much higher clip than South Carolina a lot over the last decade. That could be continuing on a shift. It could change the dynamic of this rivalry moving forward. And you've got to give all the credit in the world to Shane Beamer and the staff of coaches around him for that. And so tip your hat to those guys. I mean, I don't know how anybody at this point in Garnet can have negative things to say about Shane Beamer when it really comes down to it. I just can't see it. So yes, I'm very excited about the future of the program, definitely. And I think any Gamecocks fan, student, alum should be. And very excited about Lenore Sellers. I mean, everything that we talked about in that previous video, where all of the hopes based on his potential were being cast. So far, after 1 year, he's living up to them. You couldn't ask for any more than what he's done. I mean, he's taken multiple games, but let's just focus on last Saturday and literally put the team on his back. I mean, not to negate the play of the defense, because they put on a heck of a performance also, I would say. I mean, they limited Clemson to 14 points. Every time they had an opportunity to put us away, the defense would hold them to a 3-and-out. They'd have to punt the ball, or, at least force them to punt. But on the offensive side of the ball, Lenore, he took the game over. I mean, that was one of those moments where an athlete on a team just takes the game over. And he said, we're scoring. And it was tremendous, man. It was a pleasure to watch. It would be exciting regardless. But for us here, the fact that he's our hometown guy, whether you're from West Florence, South Florence, or Wilson, Florence Christian, whatever, but particularly those three schools, being in rivalry with one another, particularly West and South, myself being a West grad, all of that should be out the window at this point. And you're excited about a guy from our area doing what he's doing because it brings a spotlight to our area. South Carolina has recruited in the area for a while now, but specifically Dillon, South Carolina. Dillon has had an excellent high school program for a very long time. And so talent comes out of Dillon. South Carolina recruits locally, something that Shane Beamer has prioritized. People were talking about, how did Clemson not recruit this guy or other major programs? He was going to Syracuse. Like, where was the recruiting? Well, I would say that the eyes haven't been in Florence the way they should have been, for one, so he slipped through the cracks. B, as far as Clemson goes, I think that they felt like they were already where they wanted to be at the position for the cycles that would have passed through to really be recruiting him. And that caused them to not do it. But it was a miss on their part, and we're glad that they did. And again, credit to Shane Beamer for prioritizing local recruiting. What Lenore Sellers is doing, you got guys like Kelvin Hunter, Jaden, obviously his brother is committed to be at South Carolina next year, who's also playing phenomenal throughout the high school playoffs right now as we speak, with South Florence going to the lower state championship coming up this week. It's going to put more attention on our area. So our local high school coaches are going to have an opportunity for their athletes to have more scouting eyes on their players. It's great for everybody. It's great for everybody what's going on. You should want to see Lenore Sellers succeed. The best thing that could happen, I don't care if you're a Clemson fan or not, is for Lenore Sellers to win a Heisman and succeed in the highest way. I know that no true Clemson fan out there could possibly stomach the idea of saying, yeah, we'd like to see South Carolina win a national championship or a conference championship. I get it, but I'm just saying that there's actually a lot of positive in this, because it could be the next great Florence player that's wearing orange and purple for some unforeseen reason one day, and you'll be glad that you were scouting and recruiting heavily in this area. There's good players here, and number 16 has proven that. Now, with that being said, let me close by saying something positive to our Clemson viewers. I watched the game with a friend of mine, really actually at this point a family member through marriage, but I digress. One of my closest friends, we watched the game together. He's a diehard Clemson guy. I mean, he's like all out Clemson guy. And so yes, you can do that. I hope you guys understand that out there in our state. Some people don't seem to, but yeah, you can do that. We can all get along. And to kind of wrap up, I'm going to tell y'all what I told him. Clemson is moving on to play for an ACC championship, okay? Because Miami lost to Syracuse, and it's kind of ironic, isn't it, that that's where Lenore's probably would have been starting this year. Isn't that funny how that works out? And so they're going to play for a conference championship. And I told him, I said, because of the fact we've never won one, we've only been to the SEC championship one time. I remember watching the game, ironically, at a Japanese restaurant. Didn't plan that, but that is true. We ran into one Cam Newton, who I said in that previous video is who Sellers reminds you a lot of because of his build and athleticism. And so we lost. So I told him, I said, look, I would trade a Palmetto Bowl win for an appearance in a conference championship that we have a legitimate chance to win any day of the week. Any day of the week. And so Clemson fans, I know you guys are not happy with how Saturday turned out. Not at all. But I will tell you, don't be too salty. You guys are going to play for something that we would love to have an opportunity to play for, which is a conference championship. And therefore, your playoff hopes are still, I think, alive. And that brings me to the last thing I want to say, which is this. The South Carolina Gamecocks should, not maybe, not might, should be in the conversation. In my opinion, the South Carolina Gamecocks should be in the 12-team college football playoff, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. It's not just the win streak. It's not just the strength of schedule, which is huge, okay? You got to take each one of those teams that are in the conversation. There's probably, 15, 16 teams legitimately in the conversation for who are the best 12 in the country, because that's what it's supposed to be, right? That's what they say, at least. You got to look at everybody's strength of schedule. And when you do that, there's no contest. There's no debate about it that South Carolina is sitting around or even at the top of that list. But I've been talking about this a lot, and this will be the last time I'm going to mention it. I haven't talked about it on the YouTube channel. Some people are tired of hearing me talk about it that may watch this that know me personally. So just bear with me, guys, because it's the last time I'm going to mention it. But I'm going to put it out here in the open airwaves, and it's the LSU game. I even had a Georgia fan comment the other day. That was a clean hit. It was the worst call I've ever seen. Of course, I'm talking about the blindside hit on the quarterback on the pick six that Nick Emanwari had at the end of the LSU game, which would have essentially sealed the game. I don't think there's a scenario where they're able to come back and win, and our backup quarterback played the second half of the game. If we win that game and we're 10-2 instead of 9-3, there is no discussion about South Carolina. There's other teams to discuss, like Clemson would be one of those teams. That do they deserve a bid? Maybe if they win the ACC championship, like those conversations exist. South Carolina's not in the conversation. We're 10-2. Strength of schedule is probably the best out of all of the teams, and we're in, and there's no debate. You have a situation where a very questionable, most people, in fact, the only people I've really heard definitively defend the hit have been Clemson fans. It's just true. That's just a fact. That's just what I've experienced. I'm not saying nobody else has out there, but when you look at the fact that a questionable, at least call, if not outright horrible call, where a referee not only decided a game, and there was another call in that game too that was really bad, but let's not get too far down the rabbit hole. You're talking about a referee defining an entire season, not just of one team, maybe the entire country, because name a team that's in the college football playoff coming up that would be excited to draw South Carolina as their opponent. I don't look at any team in the playoff and say, we can't beat them. If I was a betting man, there are other teams I would bet on to win the entire championship over our team, just being objective and honest. There's other teams I would bet on, but I don't look at any of them and say, there's no way we could beat them. To me, if you're the committee, you look at strength of schedule, you look at the win streak, you look at what they've accomplished, you look at the players that are on the field, and you have to say, this is one of the 12 best teams in the country. We can't leave them out of the playoff. They've done everything you could ask of them. When you look at their record, 2 of their 3 losses are within a field goal or less. One of them, a 2-point loss to Alabama on the road. And the other was an LSU game where they dominated LSU for majority of the game, even with their backup quarterback in, and really lost the game based on a call that you could certainly argue should not have been called. The quarterback's a defender. He did not hit him on the blind side. He hit him squarely on the right shoulder. His head was turned, but his torso was hit right there. And it's not a blind side. The quarterback is a defender at that point, and that's a fair hit. That's how many feel about it. You go back, make your own decision. So I'm just saying that Decision Sunday is going to come here soon. I think we have a shot of being in the playoff, and I think that if we do get an at-large bid to the first ever 12-team college football playoff, I don't think anybody would argue that it's not warranted and deserved, and I think we could make some noise too. I'm excited about the Gamecocks, and I'm excited about Lenore Sellers. If you're local, even if you're not, but if you're local and for whatever reason you're not familiar with Sellers or you're not, supporting him, even just in your mind, you need to get on board. Lenore Sellers' success is Florence's success, and you need to understand that. And his brother's coming too behind him. So it's going to be exciting to watch the two of those guys play together, see how that all meshes out on the field. Now, with that said, as far as the Tiger Roll goes, they were both good. It would have to go down to mood. Obviously, the deep fry, you could deep fry a shoe, and if you do it right, it's going to be good. So those always have an advantage As a sushi eater personally, I usually don't go for the fried rolls. To me, it feels like I'm wasting my sushi meal. You only get so many of those in life. You only get so many anything in life. So you got to enjoy each one and respect that there's only a limited number of those you're going to get. And it's just, for me, a fried sushi roll, for me, is like a hybrid experience and not a pure sushi experience. So I usually, not always, but I typically don't get fried rolls. And so from that standpoint, the Redbowl Tiger Roll had more of a sushi feel. I didn't have my ramekin where I could put together soy sauce and wasabi, which was unfortunate. I think that I would probably prefer that, but that's personal preference. The Konnichiwa roll was better. All right, so hopefully you can parse that out. I enjoyed my Tiger this weekend and Monday, no matter how you break it down. Clemson fans, it's all in good fun. Nothing but love for y'all. You got an ACC championship game to worry about. If I was you, the last thing I'd be worried about is my in-state rival. They got to win. You're up on the series. We got a long way to go to catch you. We're working on it. Everybody shake hands and get along. But we're going to enjoy this one, and we're excited about the future of the program. Could the South Carolina Gamecocks be on their way, well on their way at this point, possibly even already have arrived and just came up a little bit short of putting the whole nation on notice this year of being an elite championship level program again for the first time in a decade? We shall see. We shall see. I'll tell you this, right now, number 16 and company are making a lot of noise, and we are here for it and excited about it. So with that being said, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm excited about it. I appreciate y'all's viewership. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up down below the screen right there. It's super helpful. It really is. And we really appreciate that as well. Look forward to seeing y'all around. Florence Foodies, make sure y'all get out and eat. Our community is making an impact on the larger community, and we're going to get these restaurants opened back up on Mondays. You want to take Sunday off? That's fine. I understand that. But we got to get them open back up on Mondays. Folks want to start their week off with whatever it is from your restaurant that they like. So we got to get these guys back open, and that falls on us to show up. And I know y'all do. So I appreciate y'all. I look forward to seeing y'all around. Y'all take care, and God willing, we'll see you in the next video.